Greetings, all. Welcome back to another episode of Hot Girl Reads. And we are on episode 17 of 48 of the Hot Girl Reads 48 Laws of Power. I don't know if I'm going to continue the reading journey after this. We will see. We will see. But yeah, I'm not going to really talk too much because it is 9:30 and I am kind of tired from the day. So I'm just going to read and be really chill in this video. So if y'all like it, you'll like it. If you don't, I most likely will be back tomorrow. And hopefully I'll start it earlier and I have a lot more energy. All right, so let's get into it. Get the book, read along, and yeah. Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Judgment. Humans are creatures of habit. With an insatiable need to see familiarity in other people's actions, your predictability gives them a sense of control. Turn the tables. Be deliberately unpredictable. Behavior that seems to have no consistency or purpose will keep them off balance, and they will wear themselves out trying to explain your moves. Taken to an extreme, this strategy can intimidate and terrorize. Observance of the law. In May of 1972, chess champion Boris Spassky anxiously awaited his arrival, Bobby Fischer, in Reykjavik, Iceland. The two men have been scheduled to meet for the World Championship of Chess, but Fischer had not arrived on time and the match was on hold. Fischer had problems with the size of the prize money, problems with the way the money had been distributed, problems with the logistics of holding the match in Iceland. He might back out at any moment. Spassky tried to be patient. His Russian bosses felt that Fischer was humiliating him and told him to walk away, but Spassky wanted this match. He knew that he could destroy Fischer, and nothing was going to spoil the greatest victory of his career. So it seems that all of our work may come to nothing. Spassky told a comrade, "But what can we do?" It was Bobby's move. If he comes, we play. If he does not come, we do not play. A man who is willing to commit suicide has the initiative. Fischer finally arrived in Reykjavik, but the problems and the threat of cancellation continued. He disliked the hall where the match was to be fought. He criticized the lighting. He complained about the noise of the cameras. He even hated the chairs in which he and Spassky were to sell. Now that the Soviet took the initiative and threatened to withdraw their man, the bluff apparently worked. After all the weeks of waiting, the endless and infuriating negotiations, Fischer agreed to play. Everyone was relieved. No one was more than Spassky. But on the day of the official introductions, Fischer arrived very late. And on the day when the match of the century was to begin, he was late again. This time, however, the consequences would be dire. Hi, Raim. Reem. I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Hi, Reem. Welcome to the live. Welcome to the chat. Um, Fisher finally. Okay, where was I? I'm just gonna start from where I was just at because I lost where I was at, guys. Fisher finally arrived in Reykjavik, but the problems and the threat of cancellation continued. He disliked the hall where the match was to be fought. He criticized the lighting. He complained about the noise of the cameras. He even hated the chairs in which he and Spassky were to sit. Now the Soviet Union took the initiative and threatened to withdraw their man. The bluff apparently worked. After all the weeks of waiting, the endless and infuriating negotiations, Fischer agreed to play. Everyone was relieved. No one was more than Spassky, but on the day of the official introductions, Fischer arrived very late, and on the day when the match of the century was to begin, he was late again. This time, however, the consequences would be dire. If he showed up too late, he would forfeit the first game. What was going on? Was he playing some sort of mind game? Or was Bobby Fischer perhaps afraid of Boris Spassky? It seemed to be an assembled Grand Masters, and to Spassky, that this young kid from Brooklyn had the terrible case of the jitters. At 5:09, Fisher showed up. Sorry. Fisher showed up exactly 1 minute before the match was to be canceled. The first game of the chess tournament is critical, and since it is a tone for the months. Sorry, I'm reading it like this, guys. I need to see the light, and like when I'm reading it like this, it's super dark. But yeah, so you guys get to see it too. Hi, Raju. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the live. The first game of the chess tournament is critical. Since it sets a tone for the months to come, it often is a slow and quiet struggle. For the two players preparing themselves for the war and trying to read each other's strategies. This game was different. Fischer made a terrible move early on, and perhaps the worst of his career. And when Spassky had him on the ropes, he seemed to give up. Yet Spassky knew that Fischer never gave up. Even when facing checkmate, he fought to the bitter end, wearing the opponent down, this time though he seemed resigned. Then suddenly he broke out a bold move that put the room in a buzz. The move shocked Spassky, but he recovered and managed to win the game. But no one could figure out what Fischer was up to. Good morning. Oh my gosh. Good morning. It's actually like 9:30 over here. So it's almost night. It's like night for me. So after this, I'm probably going to go to bed. But yeah. Um the move shocked Spassky, but he recovered and managed to win the game. But no one could figure out what Fischer was up to. Had he lost deliberately, or was he rattled? Unsettled, even as some thought insane. After his defeat in the first game, Fischer complained all the more loudly about the room, cameras, and everything else. He also failed. Like you, a rose. Hi there, drop in to show support. I'm new to your channel. I'm from Sydney, Australia. Hi, Jason. Welcome from Australia. Oh my God, that's so funny. Like, when I was in middle school, I was so obsessed with Australia. So that is also on my bucket list of places to go. Okay. He also failed to show up on time for the second game. This time, the organizers had had enough. He was given a forfeit. Now he was down 2 games to none, a position from which no one had ever come back to win a chess championship. Fischer was clearly unhinged. Yet in the third game, as all of those who witnessed it remembered, he had a ferocious look in his eyes, a look that clearly bothered Spassky. And despite the hole that he had dug himself into, he seemed supremely confident. He did make what appeared to be another blunder, as he had in the first game, but his cocky air made Spassky smell a trap. Yet, despite the Russian's suspicions, he could not figure out the trap. And before he knew it, Fischer had checkmated him. In fact, Fischer's unorthodox tactics had completely unnerved his opponent. At the end of the game, Fischer leaped up and rushed out, yelling to his confederates as he smashed a fist into the palm, "I'm crushing him with brute force." Oh my goodness. In the next game, Fischer pulled moves that no one had seen from him before, moves that were not his style. Now Spassky started to make blunders. After losing the sixth game, he started to cry. One grandmaster said, after this, Spassky got to ask himself, is it safe to go back to Russia? Sorry. After the eighth game, Spassky decided he knew what was happening, and Bobby Fischer was hypnotizing him. Oh my God! He decided not to look Fischer in the eye, and he lost anyway. After the 14th game, he called a staff conference and announced an attempt is being made to control my mind. Oh my God, guys. He wondered whether the orange juice they drank at the chess table could be drugged. Maybe chemicals were being blown into the air. Wow, he was really paranoid. Finally, Spassky went public, accusing Fischer's team of putting something in the chairs that was altering Spassky's mind. The KGB went on alert, and Boris Spassky was embarrassing the Soviet Union. Oh my God. The charts were taken apart and x rayed. A chemist found nothing unusual in them, and the only things anyone found anywhere, in fact, were two dead flies in a lighting fixture. Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. Spassky began to complain of hallucinations. He tried to keep playing, but his mind was unraveling. He could not go on. On September 2nd, he resigned. Although still relatively young, he never recovered from this defeat. Wow, that's really like psychological warfare. What do you guys think? Okay, let's go ahead and get into the interpretation. And also, let me know whether or not you liked the lighting from yesterday's live or the lighting from like today's live. Like, I feel like, so I have two different lights. So, this light that I have right here is my sunset lamp, and it just gives like a very sultry, romantic like vibe. And then I also just have my regular lamp, and it gives kind of like a spotlight type of vibe. So let me know which one you preferred, okay? But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get into the interpretation of what the freak I just read. Okay. So, in previous games between Fischer and Spassky, Fischer had not fared well. Spassky had an uncanny ability to read his opponent's strategy. Hi, Raju. Welcome back. Raju, I don't even remember where you're from if you've ever told me. Okay, so where was I? In previous games between Fischer and Spassky, Fischer had not fared well. Spassky had an uncanny ability to read his opponent's strategy and use it against him. Adaptability and patient, he would build attacks that would defeat not in 7 moves but in 70. Love you. Aw, you're so sweet. You guys are so nice, but everybody that says that, you guys don't even know me. But okay, back to what I was saying. Um, he defeated Fischer every time they played because he saw much further ahead, and because he was a brilliant psychologist who never lost control. One master said, he doesn't just look for the best move, he looks for the moves that will disturb the man he's playing. Fischer, however, finally understood that this was one of the keys of Spassky's success. He played on your predictability, defeated you at your own game. Everything Fischer did the championship match was an attack. Oh, sorry. It was an attempt. Sorry, okay. It was an attempt to put an initiative on his side, to keep Spassky off balance. Clearly, the endless waiting had an effect on Spassky's psyche. Sorry. Most powerful of it all, though, were Fischer's deliberate blunders. Okay. I don't know what you're talking about. psyche. Most powerful of all, though, were Fisher's deliberate blunders and his appearance of having no clear strategy. In fact, he was doing everything he could to scramble his own patterns, even if it meant losing the first match and forfeiting the second. It's like, what is it? Right? Reverse psychology. Spassky was known for his sang-froid and level-headedness. But for the first time in his life, he could not figure out his opponent. He slowly melted down until at the end he was the one who seemed insane. You live from... I live in Florida. Chess contains the concentrated essence of life. First, because to win, you have to be supremely patient and far-seeing. And second, because the game is built on patterns, whole sequences of moves that have been played before and will be played again with slight alterations in any one match. Your opponent analyzes the patterns you are playing and uses them. I don't know what that means, actually. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. Will be played again in slight alterations in any one match. Your opponent analyzes the patterns you are playing and uses them to try to foresee your moves. Allowing him nothing predictable to base his strategy on gives you a big advantage in chess as in life. When people cannot figure out what you are doing, they are kept in a state of terror, waiting, uncertain, and confused. Life at court is a serious, melancholy game of chess, which requires us to draw up our pieces in batteries, form a plan, pursue it, and parry it that of our adversary. Sometimes, however, it is better to take risk and play the most capricious, unpredictable move. Jean de la Breuer, 1645 to 1696. Ooh, wow. So what did you guys think of that? Oh my god, sorry. I feel like I have to stretch. Okay, what did you guys think of that? I thought it was pretty great. Thought it was pretty, like, who here plays chess like that? Not me. I've played a few games. I have played a few games of chess, but like I've never, like, as a kid I wasn't like one of those chess kids, you know? Like I wasn't one of those kids that was like really out here strategizing. I've played Chinese checkers a lot as a kid. That was like one of my family's big games. Like we played a lot of board games as a kid, like when I was like growing up and stuff. So Chinese checkers, um, it's one of my guilty pleasures. You are very nice. Thank you, Raju. You are very sweet. Okay, now let's go ahead and get into the keys of power. Okay. Nothing is more terrifying than the sudden and unpredictable. That is why we are so frightened by earthquakes and tornadoes. We do not know when they will strike. After one has occurred, we wait in terror for the next one. To a lesser degree, this is an effect that unpredictable human behavior has on us. Animals behave in a set patterns, which is why we are able to hunt and kill them. Only man has the capacity to consciously alter his behavior, to improvise and overcome the weight of routine and habit. Yet most men do not realize this power. They prefer the comfort of routine, of giving in the animal nature that has them repeating the same compulsive actions time and time again. They do this because it requires no effort, and because they man a person of power instills a kind of fear by deliberately unsettling those around him to keep the initiative on his side. You sometimes need to strike without warning, to make others tremble when they least expect it. It is a device that the powerful have used for centuries. Filippo Maria, the last of the Visconti dukes of Milan in 15th century Italy, consciously did the opposite of what everyone expected of him. For instance, he might suddenly shower a courtier with attention, and then, once the man had come to expect a promotion to higher office, would suddenly start. Bye, Raju. Thank you for being in the live. See you next time. Bye. Okay. Um, a higher office would suddenly start treating him with the utmost disdain. Oh, Lord. Confused, the man might leave the court. And when the Duke would suddenly recall him and start treating him well again, um, doubly confused, the courtier would wonder whether his assumption that he would be promoted had become obvious and offensive to the Duke and would start to behave as if he no longer expected such honor. The Duke would rebuke him for his lack of ambition and then would send him away. What type of mind games is that? The secret of dealing with Filippo was simple. Do not presume to know what he wants. Do not try to guess what will please him. Never inject your will. Just surrender to his will. Then see what happens. Amidst the confusion and uncertainty he created, the Duke ruled supreme, unchallenged, and at peace. Unpredictability is most often the tactic of the master, but the underdog too can use it to great effect. If you find yourself outnumbered or or cornered, throw in a series of unpredictable moves. Your enemy will be so confused that they will pull back or make a tactical blunder. So I guess if, like, hypothetically speaking, say you're in a dance battle or something and you're like all out of moves and you're like, dang, these people just like killed it and it's my turn. Basically what they're saying is just unpredictability. Just be so unpredictable. Just throw something out there. Okay, sorry. They'll be confused. So, in the spring of 1862, during the American Civil War, General Stonewall Jackson and the force of 4,600 Confederate soldiers were tormenting the larger Union forces in the Shenandoah Valley. Meanwhile, not far away, General George Brinton McClellan, heading a force of 90,000 Union soldiers, was marching south from Washington, D.C. to lay siege to Richmond, Virginia, the Confederate capital. As the weeks of the campaign went by, Jackson repeatedly led his soldiers out of Shenandoah Valley, then back to it. His movements made no sense. Was he preparing to help defend Richmond? Was he marching on Washington? Now that McClellan's absence had left it unprotected, was he heading north to wreak havoc up there? Was this small force moving in circles? Jackson's inexplicable moves made the Union generals delay the march on Richmond as they waited to figure out what he was up to. Meanwhile, the South was able to pour reinforcements into the town. A battle that could have crushed the Confederacy turned into a stalemate. Jackson used this tactic time and again. When facing numerically superior forces, always mystify, mislead, and surprise the enemy if possible. He said, such tactics will win every time, and a small army may thus destroy a large one. This law applies not only to the war, but to everyday situations. People are always trying to read the motives behind your actions and use your predictability against you. Throw in a completely inexplicable move and you put them on the defensive. Because they do not understand you, they are unnerved, and in such a state, you can easily intimidate them. Pablo Picasso once remarked, "The best calculation is the absence of calculation." Once you have attained a certain level of recognition, others generally figure that when you do something, it's for an intelligent reason. So it's really foolish to plot out your movements too carefully in advance. You're better off acting capriciously. For a while, Picasso worked for the art dealer Paul Rosenberg. At first, at first, he allowed him a fair amount of latitude in handling his paintings. Then, one day, for no apparent reason, he told the man he would no longer give him any work to sell. As Picasso explained, Rosenberg would spend the next 48 hours to trying to figure out why. Was I reserving things for some other dealer? I'd go on working and sleeping, and Rosenberg would spend his time figuring. In 2 days, he'd come back, nerves jangled, anxious, saying, "After all, dear friend, you wouldn't turn me down if I offered this much," naming a substantially higher figure, "for those paintings rather than the price I've accustomed to paying you, would you?" Unpredictability is not only a weapon of terror, scrambling your patterns on a day to day basis will cause a stir around you and stimulate interest. People will talk about you, ascribe motives and explanations that have nothing to do with the truth, but that keep you constantly in their minds. In the end, the more capricious you appear, the more respect you will garner. Only the terminally subordinate act in a predictable manner. I feel like that's facts. I feel like that is facts. Okay, okay. Now, get this, imagine this. If you're driving, again, do not close your eyes. If you're handling heavy machinery, do not close your eyes. But if you are not, and if you're just sitting there, close your eyes and imagine this, okay? The cyclone. A wind that cannot be foreseen suddenly shifts in the barometer. Inexplicable changes in direction and velocity. There is no defense. A cyclone sows terror and confusion. And, side note, when I'm talking about a cyclone, I am not talking about the creature with one eye. We are talking about the storm, the cyclone. Okay. Okay? Now, this is the authority. Authority. The enlightened ruler is so mysterious that he seems to dwell nowhere, so inexplicable that no one can seek him. He repossesses in non action above, and his ministers tremble below. Honvetsu, Chinese philosopher, 3rd century BC. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Hi, welcome to the live. Now, this is the reversal to the law. So, if what I just said cannot work, this is the opposite to what I just said, okay? Sometimes predictability can work in your favor. By creating a pattern for people to be familiar and comfortable with, you can lull them to sleep. They have prepared everything according to their preconceived notions about you. You can use this in several ways. First, it sets up a smokescreen, a comfortable front behind which you can carry on deceptive actions. Second, it allows you on rare occasions to do something completely against the pattern, unsettling your opponent so deeply he will fall to the ground without being pushed. In 1974, Muhammad Ali and George Foreman were scheduled to fight for the World Heavyweight Boxing Championship. Everyone knew what would happen. Big George Foreman would try to land a knockout punch while Ali would dance around him, wearing him out. That was Ali's way of fighting, his pattern. Hi, Andra. This is the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. By wearing him out. That was Ali's way of fighting, his pattern, and he had not changed it more than 10 years. But in this case, it seemed to give Foreman the advantage. He had a devastating punch, and if he waited sooner or later, Ali would have to come to him. Ali, the master strategist, excuse me. Yes. No problem. Thanks, Andra. Thanks for asking. Um, The master strategist had other plans. In press conferences before the big fight, he said he was going to change his style and punch it out with Foreman. No one, least of all Foreman, believed this for a second. That plan would be suicide on Ali's part. He was playing the comedian, as usual. Then, before the fight, Ali's trainer loosened the ropes of the ring, something a trainer would do if the boxer were intending to slug it out. But no one believed this ploy. It had to be a setup. To everyone's amazement, Ali did exactly what he said he would do. As Foreman waited for him to dance around, Ali went straight up to him and slugged it out. He completely upset his opponent's strategy. At a loss, Foreman ended up wearing himself out, not by chasing Ali, but by throwing punches wildly and taking more and more counter punches. Finally, Ali landed a dramatic right cross that knocked out Foreman. The habit of assuming that the person's behavior will fit in its previous patterns is so strong that not even Ali's announcement of a strategy change was enough to upset it. Foreman walked into a trap, the trap that he had been told to expect. A warning: unpredictability can work against you sometimes, especially if you are in a subordinate position. There are times when it is better to let people feel comfortable and settled around you than to disturb them. Too much unpredictability will be seen as a sign of indecisiveness or even of some more serious psychic problem. Patterns are powerful, and you can terrify people by disrupting them. Such power should only be used judiciously. Woo! Let me just say, guys, for some of those words in that last chapter, I was fighting for my life. But I feel like I handled it, like, graciously. Okay, so, like I'm doing, chill. And then, like, the AC started at the same time, and that water is cold. I just got that out the fridge before I started. Ooh, hold on, my chest is cold. Okay, so let me tell you about my thoughts of that last law and that last chapter. So, I think it was really interesting. I think that's like pretty much a life lesson. Like, I don't even think that's more of like a power move. Like, I feel like in life, there is always like a twinge of unpredictability to it. Like, you're not gonna be able to predict everything. You're just not. And life would be very boring if you could predict everything. And like, you do want to have some routine, you want to have your goals, you want to work towards it, you want to have that like level of predictability, because at the end of the day, we do need I hate that we even need that book as a species. Well, yeah, I'm reading it objectively. I'm not even reading it as more of a power move, but I'm reading it as like as more of a thing to see if someone is trying to make a power play on me, like, or manipulate me, because honestly, I've never even told you guys the reason why I purchased this book or the reason why I'm reading this book. I don't even want to get too much into the details, but long story short, my ex read this book as a child. He read this book, like he was an only child, and he read this book, and he told me, like, this guy was really psychologically crazy. That's what I mean. Some people have this way of acting and body. Yes. And so he used a lot of these tactics from this book on me during our relationship. And I didn't even know until like one time he told me. He was like, yeah, I read the 48 Laws of Power as a kid, and as a, like, you really shouldn't even be reading this book, blah, blah, blah. And so he was like, yeah, and I use this to get what I want from people. Like, I use this book. And so the reason why I'm reading this book to you guys and to the masses is really as like a way to spread awareness on if someone is using these tactics on you. Now, you can counteract it however you see fit, like use your own discernment or whatever, but I've seen some of these tactics in my own life play out, and I'm like playing it in my head. I'm like, wow, I could have definitely done that different, or I could have definitely done that more maturely. So I see this like book as a way to even act like in a little bit more of like a mature manner, and instead of acting super emotionally, I mean, I don't really want to put like a label on everything, but yeah, he was really crazy. Yeah, it was it's very weird. It's very super crazy. But yeah, I just think it's like more as an awareness thing. Just because people will try to really manipulate you into getting what they want. So yeah, I just think like some of these things, staying away from people that always have a problem going on in their life, they're attracting that, and you're going to be attracting that. Like, some of these things in this book can be applicable in your own life, or like, don't sit here and go to your boss or like be in the workplace and be the center of attention all the time, because you're going to automatically put a target on your back. So some of those things I feel like can be used for people to apply in real life, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like I'm trying to conquer the world, or I'm trying to conquer like whatever, but it's more like that. So it's not necessarily something where I'm trying to be like, like one of the chapters is crush your enemy completely and totally, and it talks about not giving people any grace, and like just everybody. It's crazy. It's really crazy, but it's awareness. So yeah, that's why I'm reading it to everybody. That's why I'm doing this every day. If you guys like the live, if you like the video, please subscribe if you vibe. Thanks. Good night. Oh.